embezzler who was being flown to Cincinnati to point out where that he had buried $55,000 in stolen money. 4 people on the ground were injured, 2 of them seriously. The casualty toll could climb since a thorough search of the Shepherd bookstore building has been impossible due to flames, thick smoke, and now the fear that what remains of the wooden structure could collapse. Witnesses said the plane exploded in a ball of fire as it hit the building at Main and Cooper in Montgomery's business district, but the cause of the crash is undetermined. Cincinnati air traffic controllers were guiding the plane coming in from Chicago to Lunken Airport on instrument approach when it disappeared from their radar screen at 10:27 a.m. Dave Lane of Newswatch was one of the first reporters on the scene.
The crash occurred just before 10:30 when Robert Gaines had just begun servicing cars on the lot of Marge's Chevrolet, less than a block from the crash scene. Gaines describes what he saw.
I was putting the keys in the cars, and the plane was coming heading east. It was heading east, and the nose was going down, trying to come back up. But what it done, it was trying to come over this, for us in this parking lot over here for us, keep from hitting them houses over there. And I seen it go down, just heard a boom go up.
The area around the intersection of Cooper Road and Main Street in Montgomery is heavily populated with businesses and private homes. The bookstore building that bore the brunt of the crash is owned by Joseph and Olga Shepherd, who live in the building's second story. The first witnesses on the scene say they were met with confusion initially. They found injured people inside and outside of the building.
We saw approximately 7 or 8 people. There was probably more, but there were 7 or 8 that we could make out. We brought Mrs. Shepherd out around the back, and she said her husband was an invalid. He's up on the second floor, was still in there, and there were several people laying around on the ground.
I tried to get into one of the corner ends of the house that split open, and there was just too much smoke. I got some smoke in my lungs, and I made it about halfway through the room, and I didn't see nobody, so I went back out and over to the other side of the house. We kicked in a couple of basement windows. There was a woman said there were some people down in the basement. We kicked in some windows, and we couldn't see nobody in the basements either.
The fire raced through the large wood-framed building. The Montgomery Fire Department, located almost across the street, was unable to initially contain the blaze and was forced to call in equipment and firefighters from neighboring communities. The aircraft entered through the west side of the building and came to a stop in the lower level. On its descent, the plane sheared off utility poles, trees, and destroyed at least one parked car.
They forced the door open and took those people out of the car. And it looked like the men that did this probably burned their hands.
The 2 women rescued were identified as 51-year-old Phyllis Nair of Ross Moyne and 60-year-old Helen Schwartz, also of Ross Moyne. It has not been determined which woman was in the car. Both are in serious condition, being treated for burns and other injuries at the University Hospital Burns Institute. 83-year-old Joseph Shepherd, the owner of the bookstore, admitted with burns and smoke inhalation. He is in fair condition. And 26-year-old Ruth Harding of Oakley, an employee of the store, she was treated and released. Stanley Shepherd assessed his father's condition at the hospital.
He's okay. He's 83 years old, and he's pretty tough.
Shepherd said his mother, who was working in the bookstore at the time of the crash, escaped without injury. I'm Dave Lane, 9 News Watch.
At a news conference this afternoon, Cincinnati FBI agent in charge Alfred Smith unraveled the background of the bizarre tale. Smith said the FBI agents killed on the plane were escorting Carl Henry Johnson, an admitted bank embezzler, to the Cincinnati area to dig up $55,000 he'd buried here. Johnson and an investigator for his Chicago attorney also died in the crash. The 4 agents, Terry Hereford of Wheaton, Illinois, father of 4, Robert Connors, Naperville, Illinois, father of 4 children, Michael Lynch of Woodbridge, Illinois, also the father of 4, and Charles Ellington, also of Naperville, the father of 1 child. The other 2 fatalities were Johnson and Patrick Daly, a retired Chicago policeman who worked as an investigator for Johnson's Chicago attorney. Johnson was an assistant comptroller for the National Bank of Albany Park at Chicago when he disappeared with $614,850 in August of '75. He surrendered to the Chicago FBI 2 weeks ago, saying he was tired of running.
Consequently, he agreed to return to the FBI a substantial amount of the missing money. On December the 15th, 1982, he was leading the FBI agents to a remote location in the Cincinnati, Ohio area where he claimed an additional $50,000 had been buried by him.
According to Chicago Tribune accounts, Johnson said he'd been living in San Diego for the past 5 years under assumed names. His wife, who lives in Lakeland, Florida, filed to have her husband declared legally dead last month in order to collect a $25,000 insurance policy. Last week, Johnson led agents to a remote Chicago location where $50,000 was unearthed. He was to have done the same in Cincinnati today. FBI agents won't say if they know where the money is buried, but Johnson's Chicago attorney told CBS News today that he had advised his client not to tell anyone where the money was buried in advance, just lead agents to it. And so the very real possibility exists tonight that $55,000 buried here.
Business district before crashing into the house.
Southeast. It came across Shelley Lane, if you're familiar, directly behind us. We think it hit some trees first. It did hit some power lines at Shelley Lane, and it then hit some additional power lines at Main Street, and then plunged into the building.
Donna Stiles was working at the drive-in window in the Citizens State Bank when the plane began to fall in front of her.
It was falling. It was hitting things. It was like the sky had opened up and the rocks were falling. And these are pieces of plane bouncing and falling, and sparks were flying, and the roar of it was very fast and very quick.